FSN Radio. It's all about what's next. Go to financialsurvivalnetwork.com and sign up for your free weekly newsletter. You'll also get 3 free reports. The Financial Survival Network. It's all about what's next.
And we are back on the financialsurvivalnetwork.com. We've got somebody on right now who's not been with us for quite a while, so we're really thrilled. Chris Duane of silvershieldexchange.com is back with us now. Chris, how are you?
Hey, Kerry, how are you?
All right. Hey, man, it's been too long. What have you been up to?
I basically called it quits January or December 31st. And I said, I was going to focus on the real things in my life and stop worrying about, things I can't control. And I think that's something that we all need to do because we've been, for those of us who've been doing this as long as you and I have, it gets to a point where you're just waiting for the music to stop and forgetting to live life. And with the birth of my third child this past September, it was just wearing on me the amount of time that I was spending watching and waiting things that I have no control over or influence on. So having another child this late in life was a good opportunity for me to start focusing on, things that are important, and which is, the real people that are in your life and, honing real skills and preparing physically for, whatever may come. So that's basically what I've been doing for the last 4 months. And, we've been building, real businesses like the Silver Shield Exchange, which is like an eBay killer for silver and gold coins. It's got 75% less fees, and it's built by stackers for stackers. And then the other major project that I've been working on is writing a fictional novel, which we've just finished the outline for. And I'm very convinced, Kerry, that I've spent years working on, creating logical arguments and presentations and, videos and articles, trying to intellectually take apart this debt and death paradigm and present alternatives that are attainable for individuals to do. And, I've had mild success. I mean, my YouTube channel, we've got, 11 or 13 million views, depending on which counter you want to use. But you look at, YouTube channels that aren't related to politics and gold. And, I view myself as one of the more successful ones with 65,000 subscribers. But I look at some of the YouTube channels my kids look at, and they have like 10.5 million subscribers, and it's a girl putting on makeup. It's obvious that the age isn't here for logic. It's here for distractions, for anything but. And so I've convinced myself that it's really going to be art that is going to reach the consciousness of these individuals. And I hope that this stuff that I'm doing with my silver coins is very cool. But I think this story that I've worked out could quite possibly be a mainstream kind of conscious breakthrough to reach a lot of different people. And so I'm excited to get started working on it. I've been collaborating with a published author for the last 4 months, hashing out characters and plot lines and outlines and themes and stuff that we're going through. And it's a very intellectually exciting experience for me. So I've enjoyed doing it thus far, but I have yet to actually write a single chapter, even though we've put a ton of work into it.
Well, you understand here, like. I've got 3 kids aged 20 to 27, and you understand it's virtually impossible to reach these kids. From my age at almost 57, your age at 40, you can't imagine how hard it is to reach these kids. From our vantage point, from our viewpoint, yeah, if I had a girlfriend who looked and dressed like Beyonce and threw out silver shields all day, maybe I could connect with them.
Yeah.
But, me sitting here behind my microphone talking to you, Chris, it's just so difficult. Every now and then I do find one and I connect, and I encourage that millennial to get the word out. But basically, unfortunately, so much of what we do is preaching to the choir and preaching to the converted, and it's just the way it is, and you have to accept that.
Yeah, I think that was one of the other reasons why it made it so easy for me to kind of walk away from doing a lot of the stuff that I was doing, because I realized that, on some level, I was repeating the exact same message to the exact same people. What is that accomplishing? So I took some time off totally just to kind of get my head wrapped around it. I rechecked. The number one thing I did was recheck my logic in doing what I'm doing. And it's not that anything has gotten better to dissuade me from the path that I've taken. I mean, I started this in 2005. And I look back at, you could look at any factor in 2005 and compare it to 2004, and you can look at true unemployment, those that are on welfare stamps, the federal deficit between 2005 and 2014. You could look at, international relations. I mean, we don't even have diplomatic relationships with Saudi Arabia, and they're marching Chinese-made missiles through their streets now.
Exactly. Yeah.
You look at this world and it's so horrifically dollar bearish, and pro bull gold and silver as a means of extracting your wealth outside of this dollar paradigm. It's insane, and it stopped really making sense for me in late 2012. I really thought 2012, 4 years after the economic collapse in 2008, I thought we were going to have another run at it. I thought Obama was going to get overthrown. I thought we were going to have war with Iran, and all the signs, all the things that I've been logically going there that way didn't happen, and it really started making me think like something's really changed in the world, and I don't quite know what it is, and it's not coming from the typical Anglo-American empire. Turning their tune. I think they're afraid. And I think what has become is this theory that I've put out with this anti-hegemon. I put this together, 2010, even before all this happened, saying that these nations of China and Russia and Iran and Malaysia and South America or South Africa and Brazil and India, these are all major nations with major populations and consumer, bases and manufacturing bases and energy supplies, and they don't like what's going on with this paradigm. And I think that there's been a huge switch away globally from the dollar, led by China. And you see what's going on in the Ukraine and with China and Vietnam and Japan. It's distinctively against the United States. And I think that they probably, if there was no outside threat of a global revolt against the dollar, they probably would have done a wash repeat, process of the political establishment in 2008, thrown Obama out, put in some, neocon and marched us off to war in Iran. But I think that they're afraid now, and rightly so, that they cannot afford to have another huge crisis like they did in 2008 because they don't have the political, financial, goodwill anymore to recover from that. And if they do go into that phase of, these set up bubbles, I don't think that they feel comfortable enough to recover from it like they did in 2008, with the Federal Reserve buying up, $16 trillion bailouts and banker bailouts and all that other stuff. They're not going to get away with that again. So what have they done? They've created an illusionary economy that makes absolutely no sense. I mean, even Wall Street guys are saying, the fundamentals stopped making sense 2 years ago. There was a Citigroup report that just came out on Zero Hedge that said the fundamentals stopped meaning anything 2 years ago. Well, that's also the same time that Germany asked for their gold back and the Federal Reserve said they can't have it back. And, China really started ramping up their gold things. So I think that we're living in a complete illusionary vacuum. And the only thing I think that's going to pop it is when the gold stops flowing from west to east and makes a big scar on what we live in like. So I'm just doing everything I can in my own personal life to create real skills, real friends, and real wealth.
Yeah, I don't see where you have much choice because this thing is just breaking down before our very eyes. And I went to the doctor yesterday and nothing serious. And we're talking about what I do. And he says, well, all these houses in Palm Beach are going for $40 million. And I said, yeah, but if you go 300 miles inland, the rest of the country is just rotting to the core. It's just unraveling. This is just illusion.
You can go one zip code over, I'm sure, Kerry.
Oh, yeah.
It'd be different.
Yeah, you could just go into the center of Florida and you'll see it. But I said, it's just an illusion. It's just the result of printed dollars and hedge funds and investment bankers and all that. It's just not real. It's living in an illusion. And that's what people don't really want to face. But how much longer can it go on? Well, they've kept it going here, Chris, since 08, 09. It's going on 6 years now, almost 7 years. And how much longer are they going to do it?
Well, it all comes down to is the pace of growth over the prior year. And we've already seen the GDP come in at a paltry 0.1%. Growth last year, and all of your viewers and listeners know that between the hedonic adjustments and the weighting and all the games that they play, rigging the inflation number, we've probably already reached a depression or a recession. And I would contend that we never, ever left the 2008 collapse, and we've been collapsing ever since, but because they rigged these GDP numbers, it shows that we've had growth. But once again, it's showing a downturn that they can't even, cover up anymore, and they're blaming it on weather. And, I think that whatever it is, give to the added tension of what's going on in the Ukraine, Saudi Arabia, and China, kind of the three fronts of the big game out there in Asia, it's not dollar bullish. And as a result, I don't think that those people who are benefiting off of this current paradigm are going to continue to benefit off of it, because whenever the next move comes, it's going to be the big one. There's not going to be a repeat of 2008. It's going to be a life or death dramatic change in the way that we live. And, think about it, Kerry. In 2008, we still had hope and change. Barack Obama, if you remember the mood of like half of America, they were like masturbating high on ecstasy, waiting for this guy to get into office. And, he was going to change and solve everything. And, that lifts the economy and spirits and gives people hope that something's going to happen. In 2008, we still had, the idea that Greenspan and this new guy Bernanke, we had a lot of respect for them. And then the Wall Street guys, we had respect for them. And we were, fighting all these successful wars, quote unquote, in 2008. And now, God, we're 5 years past that. And our military is just, beyond the, reproach. We got 22 vets killing themselves every day, which is even more than people that are dying in combat, stretched out, military. The average person in 2008 had savings, had equity in their home, maybe had a job, and now 5 years afterwards, it's all those safety nets that they had are gone. The trust that they have in the politicians. Look at Obama's record now. No one. I don't even think the most diehard Democrats even give a crap about this guy anymore. And then even the Republicans. They see that what had happened with Bush and lied us into all these wars and the economy and expanded all these government programs when he had both the Senate and the Congress. There's no backup anymore. There's no safety net. There's no one really cheering for the system anymore. And I think that whenever the next one happens, I think people are just going to go, what else are we going to do but collapse? I don't see how they're going to pump up the system ever again.
Yeah, well, you look at what they're doing with the stock market. And, I had the guy on who was in charge of the Fed's quantitative easing program, the first one. All it did was bail out the banks and just keep the stock market going. And that's all they want to do is just keep the stock market up, right? That's their only goal. As long as we can keep the stock market going up, that's all that matters, right?
And that's the scary thing. And I don't think that most people fully grasp is the difference between having real tangible wealth, stuff that you can touch and feel and hold, and that doesn't need other people to make promises to pay for it to become worth something, and this electronic illusion. What's the difference between the stock market going up and down and pornography. It has the same reaction on the brain. It looks real. It feels real. You want it to happen. Mm-hmm. But, at the end of the day, it's not. It's an illusion. And it gives power to those that create and control that system to manipulate you. If they want the market to go up against all logical odds, they will. They can just plug in numbers or make programs or high frequency trade or do whatever. But you're being digitally manipulated much the same way pornography would, your mind. And I think that until you start touching and feeling and holding silver or valuing your wealth and calories that you have stored, land that produces food and stuff like that, that's real wealth. And I try to tell people, get back to biblical wealth. They talked about how Abraham was rich in gold and silver and cattle. That's real. Some freaking digit on your screen is not real. And worse, even the paper that's in your hand, we know intrinsically the paper is worth nothing. I mean, my 6-year-old girl knows this. It's a future claim on real wealth. That's what it is. It's not worth anything until you buy something with it. And knowing that this system can create unlimited future claims on wealth by Huey whatever, you're risking your entire life's energy into having digital, paper, fiat, Ponzi scheme, generational debt wealth. So, you and I have been talking about this for years.
For years.
I can't beat it to death any more than it is. So,
hey, it's just try tearing up some paper money one time, and you just know, like a baby, try tearing up a silver round. Try biting on it, Remember how the people would bite on a coin to see if it was real? Yeah. It's just that's just the absurdity.
Cash came from. I mean, it's silver. That's what.
And sound money, right? It's actually the sound it makes when you drop it. And yeah.
Kerry, I mean, the big thing is, and I think you and all the guests that you interview, we all would much rather be right in the future than popular now. And I cannot change the way that I feel. I'm walking the walk that I am because I've spent years thinking about it. I've rechecked myself to make sure I'm not deluding myself and have some investment bias because I've been doing this for so long. I cannot have anything that is pointed out to me that it would even make me question and spending my time and energy into real wealth, real skills, and real friends. So,
yeah, I agree. I've looked at it from a lot of different angles, a lot of different ways, with a lot of different people, and nobody's given me an argument that has dissuaded me in any way.
Yeah,
I just haven't seen it, and this was a case where, look. It's like fracking, all right? Mm-hmm. I've studied fracking till I'm blue in the face, studied all the evidence, the studies, and say what you like about fracking, all right? It's safe. It's plain and simple. It's safe. And there really is no substitute for it either. So, until somebody shows me a study that proves that gas comes out of your water faucet when they frack, I'm just not changing my viewpoint on it. But if somebody else can actually come up with a study that proves that it contaminates the water table and defies physics, the laws of physics, I will change my mind if I actually see the evidence. But we become a non-evidence-based society in the Western world. Have you noticed that people no longer react to evidence, and really so much of what's going on lacked any evidentiary basis? Have you noticed that trend?
Well, it's because people aren't given the idea that they can actually question facts or where it comes from or what benefit it is. And that's where I think the trivium and logic comes into play, where, classical education insisted that people question everything, and they don't. They're programmed in school to instantly follow orders. I mean, you hear the difference between book smart and street smart.
Mm-hmm.
Book smart are people that take information and regurgitate it. They're they follow orders. They they can learn dead facts. They can learn lies, and so long as they can repeat it, they will be considered, smart inside that system, because it is smart to just follow orders. That's how you thrive in a collective environment. But a street smart person goes, hey, wait a minute, that's not right. And that's where the logic comes in, where they start questioning, what am I being fed? Who's telling me this? What benefit does it have? And what's the most logical outcome? And how can I best position myself for that logical outcome? So I recommend people to, if you're book smart, you better start getting street smart, because this book is about to break.
Hey, and, that's why I keep my birth certificate in my nightstand, because every now and then I said, is my name really what it is? You have to question everything you're told, everything you read. Got to put it through a fine filter, because assumptions, you need to always go back and question your underlying assumptions. And because oftentimes you don't know it when you're making them. It's only over a course of years where you realize that they were wrong, that you were mistaken. And then if you're not questioning them, you need to go back. At one time, I actually believed the stuff that I was taught in school, that the president runs the country, Congress passes laws for the benefit of the people, and blah, 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 blah. But all of that turned out to be a bunch of you-know-what. And that's why we are where we are today, right?
Yep.
So much for that one. And, with the paradigm shift that's occurring, and it's occurring in so many different ways, too, that we're not aware of now, that you can only become aware of later on down the road. And better to be at the front of the train on this than the rear of the train, right?
Yeah, I've always said I'd rather be 8 years too early than 1 day too late.
Yeah. And those people in the Northeast are going to be more than 1 day too late when the whole thing comes to its logical conclusion. So hey,
you and I are both from the tri-state area, and you and I have both escaped the tri-state area, and I'm sure that we both agree that those people that are there, the warning signs are all around you, the property taxes, the regulations, the zoning, the gun control. I mean, look at what's going on in Connecticut, and now it's starting to happen in New Jersey. Like, they're unsustainable places in good times. And there'll be horrible places afterwards. I mean, especially if you don't even have the means of defending yourself legally, it's not going to be a good area. So I recommend anybody who's living in the New York, New Jersey, tri-state area, or any major metropolitan area right now, sell while the getting's good and retire anywhere, or not even retire, move anywhere else in the country. I mean, chances are if you move just 50 miles northeast, southwest of you, you'll be in a much better life, surrounded by more abundant-minded people who have more real relationships, and there's probably real jobs out there, and cost of living will probably be half. And don't be afraid to make that jump, especially now.
Hey, couldn't agree more, and I've done it. So your website, your new website, Chris?
Hey, you can go to silvershieldexchange.com. It's just like eBay, but it's 75% less fees. I was shocked at how many fees PayPal and eBay takes out of an average coin flip. So I got together with a couple other programmers and created a seller exchange where it costs 3% to flip a coin, as opposed to the 14-15% that eBay and PayPal were charging. And then I also have silvershieldcollection.com, where I'm still designing new silver coins. I have a new one coming out Monday called Slave Uncle, and it's in the vein of my Slave Queen, where I actually mock Uncle Sam that wants you to sacrifice for him. And so it's a pretty outrageous design, and I enjoy making this kind of art that I know will be around 300-400 years from now. In fact, I was just talking to one of my biggest customers, and he said, Chris, I don't think you quite get what you're doing. He says, can you imagine if, Thomas Jefferson or Patrick Henry, we were minting coins, mocking the king and, making skull versions of him and tell him come and take it. Like, those silver coins would be, just legendary. Like, who wouldn't want to get those? And he says, here you are making all these, anti-establishment designs that are mocking the current paradigm. And while they may not be super popular now, they have to be legendary, after the dollar collapse. And he says, I've enjoyed all your work and I'm going to continue to support it. So I'm continuing to put out these, cool designs that I think have historical significance.
Great. And go to financialsurvivalnetwork.com, sign up for the newsletter. Chris, we'll talk to you again real soon, I hope. Take care.
Thank you so much, Kerry.
FSN Radio. It's all about what's next. Go to financialsurvivalnetwork.com and sign up for your free weekly newsletter. You'll also get 3 free reports. The Financial Survival Network. It's all about what's next.